Okay, now that we have separated out motivation and volition, we can get into this mindset model of goal pursuit. And basically, with this mindset model or Rubicon model or action phases model, a couple of different names for this one. Basically, it's four phases that encompass goal pursuit. So it's split into these four phases, each of which includes a different cognitive mindset as we are pursuing our goals. So we have a pre-decisional phase. This is deliberative and more of a motivational component. We have a pre-actional phase. We start to get into more volitional processes here, and we continue on with the actional phase, also volition. And then finally, after we've acted towards our goal, we'll have a post-actional phase where this kind of reverts back to motivation. And we'll talk about each of these a bit separately. And so a key component, though, just for this model in general, is that once you'll notice that the arrows are just pointing one way. So the idea is that once you move on to the next phase, it's not that you can't go back, it's that we usually don't, and it usually doesn't make sense to go back. So for an example, we'll talk about the pre-decisional phase as, things like weighing pros and cons for goals. And then once we make this decision, right, the decision should be made concretely. It wouldn't make too much sense then to go back after actually acting or planning and then go back again, rethink about the phase. So anyways, in other words, in order to try and get at properly using our resources, we typically don't go back to a previous phase after moving forward. And that's part of the reason why this is called the Rubicon model. Is the Rubicon is, long story short, the Rubicon is a river in northern Italy, and it was part of a big decision that Caesar made back when Caesar was trying to decide whether or not to start some more war and gain power, even when not being funded. And so this is just a big geographical marker of a decision being made where once Caesar crossed the Rubicon, it was then known that, okay, the decision has been made, can't go back. And so I need to just make this decision right now. And this is just kind of similar to these phases, right? In terms of once we move to the next, we typically then don't go back across the Rubicon, we keep going. All right, so this pre-decisional phase, this includes the question of should the goal be pursued? So maybe there's a potential goal of wanting to get a degree. So then deciding, is this something that I want to do? Is it something that I should do? This will oftentimes involve weighing the pros and cons. The pros and cons of both desirability and feasibility. So desirability, is this something that I really want? What's the incentive at the end here? Is this going to benefit me in some way? And is it worth the effort that I'll put in? And feasibility, okay, seems like I do want this. I do want a degree. Now, do I actually think that I can go and do this? And combined, this is along lines of expected value, right? So can I do this? And when I do this, is it going to be worth the effort that I put in? Next, we'll get into more of a volitional phase where we've made the decision, time to start figuring out how to do certain implementation. And so here the question is, how I've decided I want this goal, how do I go about achieving it? This will involve planning. So, okay, I want to get a degree. What do I need to do for that? I need to apply for college. I need to pick out my classes, things like that. And then from this phase, the likelihood of action, so then going into the next phase here, is determined by goal commitment. So that's expected value, right? I think I can do this and I want this. So now I'm committed to this goal, and suitability of the situation for action. So maybe it's a goal that's really wanted to go and get this degree, but maybe for whatever reason, it's just not a good time. So then the actual action phase will be put off a bit. But once we move into the actional phase, we actually start working to accomplish the goal. So we take the classes, we do the studying, do the work that's needed. With this phase, we often increase our effort in the face of difficulties. We've hopefully already planned for certain difficulties that might show up, right? That's beneficial in these situations. And we'll talk about a strategy actually that'll help with that a little bit. But yeah, usually difficulties, once we're in this phase, difficulties are less likely to stop us, and we're more likely to just increase our effort then. That goal shielding that we talked about, this pops up in this phase where we, once we're in implementation phases, we shield out other goals. We pick this one. Now it's time to act towards this. We also shield out other things sometimes that we'll talk about later, like negative information. There's the tendency to focus on positive information here, and we'll also resume tasks after interruptions when in this phase. Finally, there's the post-actional phase. This is after we've acted towards the goal. We've behaved, and now we're deciding whether or not we are okay with our progress. So we're assessing whether or not we've accomplished that goal. Is the intention completed? Have I reached this goal? If not, should I continue pursuing this, or should I change my strategies? Again, you can kind of think about this as the getting towards the end of that negative feedback loop, right? So if the goal is to run a marathon, now you're thinking, okay, I've gone through my actions. Can I run a marathon? If not, I should probably keep working at it. Do I need to change my strategies, whatever? If so, do I just quit this now, or do I change my goal so that it's maybe a more difficult goal? Maybe I want to go do an Ironman now or something like that. But yeah, and we do see that overall, and we'll talk about this later as well, there is an impact on unrelated tasks. So for a quick example, before in a couple of videos, we'll get into the actual study for this, but we see in research that the mindset that we're in will influence how we do things like evaluate other objects or evaluate products. And so if we are in a phase where we're evaluating a current goal, we'll be more likely to evaluate other things as well. All right, and that's it for this. We'll get into implementation intentions in the next video.